Sneak dissing, we don't see the competition. I drop off a ransom note that your art is missing, nigga.
Pay us in full with the money, or she gon' get her fingers clipped off like Lil Sonny,
MRecktv.
Yo, we always gonna be best friends, man.
Welcome to the Unsung Heroes, man. I'll be the boy DJ Moeskieno, aka the Sugar Cut King, alongside with my main man, DJ Superior. You know what I'm saying? We live broadcasting on MRecktv with my main man,
MRecktv,
Baby Paul, aka BPZ.
Easy. What's happening, man? What's up, world? Thank y'all for having me. Peace and blessings, everybody. Shout out to everybody in the building. Thank you for tuning in.
Yes.
I'm fucking with MRecktv heavy. Pause. You know what I'm saying? It's a blessing to catch up with you brothers, man. I like what y'all doing out there on the internet, man, and abroad. You know what I'm saying? Across the board.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Check this out. We always ask everybody that's watching this platform. Like I said, this platform is for the DJs. You know, all these other platforms they got out here is for the MC, but if it wasn't for the DJ, sometimes the MC wouldn't even make it. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
So
I want to have it no other way.
Yes. So what we want to ask you is, what made you? We always ask somebody what made them want to start DJing first.
Well, it's funny too because, like, for me, I was around some really, really dope street DJs, and when I say street DJs, I talk about like out of Queens, you know, DJ Polo, Cool G Rap, you know, my man Dr. Butcher, who was also a DJ for Cool G Rap, out of Corona, Queens, you know what I'm saying? I hung out with him, used to practice with him and whatnot. And just because of his affiliations with the people I just mentioned, he brought me to the studio in Long Island City, the legendary Power Play Studios in Long Island City, where some of the greatest hip hop albums ever made was recorded. I'm talking about Let the Rhythm Hit Him by Rakim. I'm talking about the Blueprint, the original Blueprint by KRS-One. You know what I'm saying? Early Main Source Records was made there, you know what I'm saying? And I was first a fly on the wall, but then I got to intern in the studio and kind of learn the ropes before I made a name for myself as a producer. That was like my beginning, and that's in Long Island City, you know what I'm saying? Like 5 walking distance from Queensbridge, facts, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, salute to Power Play Studio, salute to Dr. Butcher, you know what I'm saying? And all the engineers I got to meet, and DJ Doc, who used to engineer for like KRS-One. So many greats was coming in and out of that place, man. But I learned a lot, and that was what got me to like be really inspired to become a music producer.
What made you want to produce though? What made you want to produce?
I feel like, well, for me, it was like I was a heavy collector of music first. You know what I mean? Like I used to collect all the vinyls from the records that came out in the 80s, the Run DMCs, the LL Cool J's, the Houdinis, the Fat Boys, and it wasn't until I interned in that studio I just mentioned, and I learned the ropes behind the scenes of how to record records, how to put beats together. And I met Large Professor, shout out to Large Professor, Main Source, who started Nas' career early in his career doing Main Source. I watched him on the SB1200 just getting busy, man, just killing it. You know what I'm saying? And he actually was ghost producing some of the music for some of the greats around that time. And I was just that was my spark. I was like, I gotta get a drum machine. I gotta do that shit. That shit is dope. You know what I'm saying?
Hold on. You just can't run these names down and just be like, yo, I was just this and did that. Nah, bro. You came in contact with Polo, DJ Polo, son. And then you be talking about Paul. Look, we got Paul and Paul, Lost Professor, and you.
Dr. Butcher.
That ain't no you just I ran into them. You gotta give us the backdrop on how you ran into these.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure, like Butcher used to just bring me to the studio, and like when Eric B and Rakim was doing the Let the Rhythm Hit Him album, Lost Pro was like collaborating with them behind the scenes. You know, he helped develop some of the records on that album, like Ghetto. You know what I'm saying? My man Rashad Smith, who ended up producing for Bad Boy later in his career, he was doing some of the stuff behind the scenes too, because him and Lost Professor was real cool. So I think he had did the actual Let the Rhythm Hit Him song. You know what I'm saying? And then, as I said, all right, I got to get an internship in here. So I got an internship just from hanging with Butch and just coming back and forth from my crib to Long Island City just to be in the mix. You know what I'm saying? And then I started doing little sessions and whatnot. I remember one time I did a session with Eric B. And you know, I realized studio etiquette from this one session. What I mean by that is, don't overstep your boundaries. Don't talk when not being spoken to. Let the artist handle their business and not get too much in the mix. I remember somebody was trying to reach Eric about tracking some music on a 2-inch reel, and you know, I just interjected the engineer, and I was like, "Yo, somebody's trying to get in touch with you." He was in the lounge, so I called him to come in the lounge and get in the mix as far as explaining to him what was needed. And then he didn't really know me, you know what I'm saying? So he was just asking around like, "Yo, who is this kid right here, man?" You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, he had a problem with how I was approaching everything. Like I was kind of taking control of the conversation in the room.
This Eric B you talking about?
Yeah, I'm talking about Eric B. So he pulled my man Butcher to the side and told him what was going on. And I said, "Nah, it ain't even like that." You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, you know, I said, "All right, I'm gonna fix this." So I just said, yo, Eric, can I talk to you for a minute? So I pulled him to the side and I was like, "Look, I'm not here trying to like overstep your boundaries, you know what I'm saying, as far as, you know, your session. I'm just trying to help out. So if it's a problem, just let me know." You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And he was like, "All right, that's cool. That's cool. That's what's up. No doubt." And that was the end of it. You know what I'm saying? But I learned studio etiquette from then on, that, you know, don't do too much when you're in other people's session. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's important, especially when you ain't nobody at the time. You know what I mean? It's not like it's my record. You know, I ain't known as a person in the industry. I'm just an intern behind the scenes. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But shout out to
Eric. Let me ask you something. Eric was in there working on some beats though, or he was just in the session?
That's a good question. That's a good question. The sessions that I was in, I didn't see him making beats, but I'm not gonna put him on blast and say he don't make beats. But I know Lost Professor had a big hand in helping out on some of those songs of that album, for sure.
Oh, okay.
For sure. You know what I mean? I watched him put in work, and that was my inspiration. You know what I'm saying? Before even Main Source came out.
Seems like Lost Pro was in the mix of some of everything with, like you saying, Eric B right now, even Premier, like Pete Rock, like he was the nucleus of a lot of producers.
Yeah, he was, man. He really was. And I feel like he don't get the flowers he deserves.
Yeah.
You know, for what he did for the culture. To me, he was like an East Coast Dr. Dre, because he brought together Nas, he put in Akinelli, he was doing deals before Wu-Tang was where they was at, putting people in position, and you know what I'm saying? He was doing that. He brought Premier in to be on Illmatic. You know what I'm saying? He brought Q-Tip to be on Illmatic, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And he helped Nas get his deal with Columbia with his music. He helped Akinelli get his deal with Interscope with his music, you know what I'm saying? I just feel like the business of music was his only hindrance. Like he didn't put as much thought into the business of music back then in his career as opposed to his music production. You know what I'm saying? And because I think he would have been way bigger to this day.
Since
you
know we on
that time.
Since we on that topic, what do you think can prevent that from producers like that from going through that phase going forward for now, with the knowledge that we know now?
Oh man, it's a digital age. For me, I took it upon myself when I was making a name for myself from the 90s to now, where I started building relationships behind the scenes, whether it's somebody that's handling marketing, whoever's the PR person, whoever's doing radio, you know what I'm saying? You know, even the executives and the A&Rs, you got to build those relationships. So aside from knowing you as a creative, they know you as a business person that they can communicate with. So that way, let's say as a producer, you want to bring some new talent to the table. You could be developing it for months, having produced a record for this company already that's already doing what it's doing in the market, and then you pull somebody that's credible behind the scenes to the side, like, yo, I got this other project with this artist, you know what I'm saying? Check this out. Now back then, it was easy to get deals by just bringing the music to the table. Now it's a numbers game because we're in a digital age. You can't get no record deal just off of talent. You gotta build your own stats in the market first. You know what I'm saying? But I just feel like having those relationships in the right places, when you're in position and people are recognizing your name and attaching it to your music, that's when you can create other opportunities. You know what I'm saying? Fact.
True.
I've been blessed to say that I've been able to do that. That's what keeps me alive, besides producing records. You know what I'm saying? But we'll get it.
What was your first? What was your first big joint that you did? Like the one that you was like, yo, I want to keep doing this.
In the 90s, Le Fleur, Le Fly, and Skoshka.
Oh, you did that?
To OGC. Yes, sir. Rest in peace to Sean
Oh,
Price.
okay.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to B-Minus,
Sean
Duck Down.
Sean Price, yeah.
Backstory on that record is crazy. Like when we demoed the record, it was so many bars. Think about it, it's 5 people on that record, right? So imagine everybody's competing, you know, like Wu-Tang before Wu-Tang. Everybody's competing on the one song to have the best verse. So my job as a producer is to narrow it down, to kind of make it a song. Otherwise, it's just been a beat and verse. And I'm just like sitting in the studio listening to all the shit like, oh shit, how do I make this into a record?
All right, let me
yes, y'all hook.
Yeah, let me ask you this question, not to cut your wisdom. So the original version is way longer, and it's a possibility somebody didn't make the record.
Now, actually, everybody made the record that was on the record out of Helter Skelter and OGC, because it's 5 of them. But I had to kind of pick out the best parts of their verses, because let's say instead of it being 16, it was 20 or 24 bars.
Gotcha.
I had to listen and be like, all right, I'm gonna end him here. You know what I'm saying? And let the next cat come in. You know what I'm saying? So
that's dope, the way you did it,
the first and second, because you have to have an ear to kind of like pick it apart enough to bring the best out of what they're doing and still make it a song. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it was a lot of pressure because I was just building my name with the B-Miners, and the only work I did before that was the stuff on Smith & Wesson's album. You know what I'm saying? Like, mind you, I contributed ideas to Black Moon's record, but it wasn't until Smith & Wesson that actually I had my name on credits. So by the time we get to doing Helter Skelter stuff, you know what I'm saying? It was like, all right, they're giving me a single opportunity. I got to kill this shit. You know what I'm saying? So Rock did the hook. They did a bunch of verses. I narrowed it down. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, I mixed it in a way where you could have the length for radio, like just over 3 minutes at that time. Yeah. Anywhere between 3 to 320 was good for radio. I mean, it's a little different now. Sometimes records even shorter for radio. You know what I'm saying? But if you have the Helter Skelter album, you'll notice that the version on the album is longer. It's almost 5 minutes because I let more of it go. You know what I'm saying? But then if you have like the single version that went to radio or the DJ 12-inch, you got the radio version. You know what I'm saying?
That's classic, bro. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Everybody. Rest in peace.
Yeah, for sure.
All that.
Still, like, you know what I mean?
Definitely. So like when that record dropped, and it's buzzing crazy because it was all over radio. The streets was eating it up. Now those phone calls come in.
Nah.
Key thing. I'm gonna tell y'all. I was in artist mode, meaning like I was a producer, happy to be working in the crib making beats. I come out when it's time to shop a beat, you know, I'll come to the studio when it's time to share what I just came up with, and I had no management. So mind you, I'm part of B-Miners and I'm affiliated with Duck Down as a new company that's in the market with a bunch of artists. So I always get the in-house love to place records. But outside of that, if a call came to Duck Down's office on my behalf, I never got it. And I could honestly blame Drew for that. You know what I'm saying? Because I got word years later that he got calls about me. But, you know, he wanted to control the dynamic, meaning that I don't want him to be giving away too much music to other people unless I control it, meaning if I get a percentage, or, you know, he may want me to just do the beats for within the B-Minus circle, like for boot camp. You know what I'm saying? In hindsight, it was a lesson learned, and I've never put myself in a situation like that again. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. Real talk.
Let me ask you this.
No hate involved, but it's just real. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you this. So was you signed to Duck Down?
No, never. I was just an affiliate of the B-Miners. It was just me, Evil D, Mr. Walt, and then 2 other cats who came in, you know, like behind me was Chocolate Ty and Rich Black. Rich Black produced on the Shining album. He produced One Time for Your Mind. That joint.
Yeah.
The videos with the Shining, you know what I'm saying? The concept.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Rich Black, shout out to Chocolate Ty.
Chocolate
It was just a crew thing. It was just a crew thing. You see how DITC was, you know, Buck Wild, Showbiz, Lord Finesse, and it was just producing, you know, all the cats that's coming out that circle, you know, Fat Joe, Diamond D, so on, you know what I'm saying? Showbiz and AG. You know, it was never no paperwork, meaning that we did paperwork for the records we produced for the label, but as far as management or me being like an in-house producer for the label, like how maybe Rockefeller was later for like a Just Blaze or a Kanye, we never did that back then. You know what I'm saying? It was just yo, any one of y'all within the beat miners, we're working on this album. We got an open budget, bring some beats, and then we would just place the beats, whether we went up to the office or we was just in D&D studios and just playing shit. And niggas, I want that, I want that. You know, E would do his joints for Black Moon. You know, me and Walt would contribute as, you know what I'm saying, and Smith and Wesson, the same thing. And then when it came to Helter Skelter, the reason why I got the most work on that album, Nocturnal, was because I was demoing a lot of records for them as a favor at Special Ed Studio in Brooklyn. Shout out to Special Ed.
Special
You know what I'm
Ed.
saying? Buckshot Special Ed was real cool. Remember when they did the Crooklyn record, right?
Yeah.
That's
right.
Yeah. So I was demoing records for them as a favor, even when Ian Walt wasn't around, because they were calling me. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, cool, you know. So I come through. I demoed the song that became "Let the Brains Blow." I demoed the song for OGC that ended up on their album called Elite Fleet, and then you know, those demos is what led to Duck Down situating a deal with Priority Records, Brian Turner, after leaving the Nervous Records. You know what I'm saying? You know, the transition from Duck Down Management and the label from Nervous Records was after Smith and Wesson's album. They did Black Moon and Smith and Wesson's album on Nervous Records. Then when it got to Priority, that's when Helter Skelter came out. See what I'm saying?
Helter Skelter.
They were having, you know, internal issues with the label owners at that time, that, you know, which is why Black Moon didn't come out with an album, the second album, for a couple years. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so you know, I demoed those records. You know, they walked it in, created a situation. So their thank you was like, yo, we'll give you a lot of work on this album. That's why I got like 5 records on there. I got the Therapy record with Vinny Mojica that was on the De La Soul Saturdays record. That was actually Angie Martinez's first music video cameo ever. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
It was on that song Therapy. You can Google that on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? She played a nurse in the video.
Yeah, Therapy was banging. You did Therapy?
Yeah. That was one of the 5 songs I did on the album. I did like 5 records on that album. You know,
let me ask you this.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Being that you did like 5 records on that album, what was the budget, I guess, for you for doing those 5 beats?
I was getting a couple thousand a record at that time. I'm gonna say anywhere between $2,000-$3,500 a record. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Because it was still kind of independent. It was Priority. It wasn't like I was getting 5 or 10,000. I got that later as I started building my name more on the credits. But I was cool with that because it's like I'm doing a body of work, so it kind of added up. You dig what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, so if you do that math, and I got like 5 records and on there, it was decent. You know what I'm saying? For that time.
12,
and that's
15.
like 96. Yeah, you know. So I was cool with that. And again, I was in artist mode back then. I was doing a lot of music for the love of of the culture, for the love of
just doing it and giving it out. You was just doing it and giving them out.
I was doing the records, and like in this case, like with Helter Skelter, like I would just play the records in the studio, or if Ruck, you know, rest in peace to Sean Price, came to me with an idea, I would put together and give it to him. Like that's how we did. There was another song called Soldiers Gone Psycho. They came with me the idea of what they wanted to talk about, and I put that beat together. Therapy was a beat I already made completely from the beginning to end. Musically, the background vocals in it, the sounds was all there. And I forgot how I met Vinia, but I just thought she would be dope on the record because I love that Saturdays record. I love the stuff she used to do with Tribe. You know what I'm saying? So I put her on the record, and you know, we built a good friendship from that. And they decided to make it a single. And the funny thing is, you can Google this too. When they decided to make it a single for that album, they wanted to remix it. And I was like, nah,
not that joint.
The original version, if you listen to the album version, then you listen to the video version, you'll see the difference. Buck was like, yo, I want to remix. I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. I'll pass. You know what I'm saying? I believe in the original version of the record. You know what I'm saying? If you want to do a radio edit of any curses in the verses, that's cool. But music, I'm not touching it. So Buck went in and kind of did like a live bass, and he put some other girl in there, you know, some girls he was trying to develop or whatever. And that's the version you see when you see the video. You know what I'm saying? But you can hear the difference automatically compared to the album version. You know what I'm saying?
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. So who came up with the
Yeah, but,
video
that's
concept?
the game.
Yeah. Who came up with the video?
I'm not sure who came up with the video. I think they had an in-house director they was using a lot back then. But I don't know if it was Buck because Buck was like the co-executive with Drew High at Duck Down back then. So they probably was overseeing all the decision making with the visuals of the records. You know what I'm saying? And Ruck and Rock, I think based on the song concept, because the song concept was that Ruck was like a mental doctor and Rock's supposed to be a patient, and he's giving therapy and giving him advice. He's talking about just being a street nigga and into all kind of crazy shit, and he's trying to give him advice. You know what I'm saying? And I just love the way they was back and forth on that song. That's why it made sense it was a single. I just feel like the original version would have been a better presentation for the video.
It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I think they were underrated. If they would have put out more albums, they would have been a problem out here,
Yeah, they still was a problem.
Why didn't they put out more joints?
I think it was label issues because at some point with Priority Records, by the time they got to a second album, and even Smith & Wesson got to a second album, remember they had to do the name change to Cocoa Brothers?
Yeah, that's right.
So there was just a lot of internal issues with their distributor, Priority Records, Brian Turner. Y'all heard of Brian Turner before. You know what I'm saying, from Ice Cube story. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
that's the guy he went to the office with, right?
Correct. And they was also distributed No Limit at the time too. So it was just a lot of stuff going on. And I feel like the decision making and getting budgets to put out more albums. Let's think about it. Every time you put out a record, they make the decisions on the next record based on the success of that record and the numbers and the sales. You dig what I'm saying? Unfortunately, a lot of Duck Down albums, I feel, probably went gold from Nervous to Priority, but the numbers probably weren't reflecting. You haven't publicly heard on record that Black Moon album went gold or Smith & Wesson album went gold.
Right.
Skelter album went gold.
I'm pretty sure all those albums went gold.
Thank you. But that's just a reminder of business. You know what I'm saying? Because the impact of those records were like gold records.
It was crazy.
Because I figured the singles. I was thinking the singles went gold. But the albums, albums went gold. Nah, I'm agreeing with you.
Like, all my gold and platinum records came after all the work I did for Duck Down. I have not gotten one gold record from any of those albums, and they're timeless classics.
Wow.
Facts.
So how many joints?
Credibility and some publishing royalties, what I'm saying, over the years, but not one gold record from any of the Duck Down albums.
How many joints did LaFleur record do?
I don't know.
Because that man, come on, bro.
That goes back to I'm dead serious. I don't know what those records did because again, Duck Down was handling the business with the labels, and unless they say, "Oh, our single, here's the sales report of this record," and remind you, it's not even a digital age. We're streams. We're talking about real singles. Buy the vinyl, buy the CD. You dig what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying? That was the time. So, and mind you, records were selling back then. You know what I'm saying? Hard copy music was selling. So there's no reason why any of those albums shouldn't have been reported SoundScan gold or even platinum or even the singles for that matter. But again, Duck Down would have to answer to the record companies they were doing business with or their distributors thereof as to accounting for the sales of those records.
Right.
You know what I mean? You could probably look up Duck Down's catalog right now or even follow them online and try to see if any of those albums were gold or certified.
I'll check it out.
Haven't reported gold. You know what I'm saying? If they have over the last 20-something years, I'll take a plaque. Thank you very much.
Right.
Because they've released some of that stuff on compilations, all that. You know what I'm saying, over the years.
Yeah, so Baby Paul, let me ask this. What's your relationship with Drew High? And then I want to talk about your relationship with Buckshot. But what's your relationship with Drew High? Honestly.
My relationship with either one of them is really nothing now, and that was my choice because after the last album I worked on was the Boot Camp album For the People. That was a compilation album, all in the morning. They had the fatigues on in the cover, and again, it was like coming to me to do the work, but not looking at the respect to put me in position as like, all right, we're gonna pay you this. The money they were paying was still in the ballpark of the first couple of records.
Gotcha.
It never changed. It never escalated.
Oh, wow.
So for me, it's like it's a level of respect for the people that are helping your company make money.
Right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
I'm not a fool. I don't have to be the most versed in the business, but there should be a level of respect. But yo, you've really done a lot for my artist albums, the classics, the singles, everything. Yo, I'm gonna give you 8,000 for this record, or 5,000 for this record, or 7,000, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? And then, like I said, I never received any royalties from any of those other albums. So why would I continue doing more business with you? You see what I'm saying? And by this time, we're talking like 99, 2000. I'm becoming more versed in the business because I paid more attention, not just the creative. So I'm looking at, all right, if I'm doing records, it got to make sense. You see what I'm saying?
Most definitely.
Business wise, you know, not just what I get up front, but my publishing earnings, my residual earnings. You know what I'm saying? And this is still before the digital age. You dig what I'm saying? You know, no royalty statements off any of those albums ever.
Damn. So how long was you with them?
5 years.
Okay.
95 to about 2000. Around 2000, that's when I did the Beat Minus album, Brace for Impact with Evil D and Mr.
Hold on. Before you get into that, you said no royalty statements ever?
No royalty statements from Duck Down Records ever. So all the money they've made, it went to their label. You know what I'm saying?
So hold on. What did you get signed for then? Did they sign you when they?
Nah, like I said, I never did any in-house production deal with Duck Down ever. I just was part of Beat Minds and producing the songs for those records, and I would get like my advance payments per record. You know what I'm saying? Like I mentioned, and I still get my performance royalties. I would BMI. I still get that. But we're talking about record sales royalties, which is another animal.
Yeah, they're separate. So
So if the album does 300,000, 400,000, and you recoup whatever the budget was for that after marketing and all that, that's the money the company makes, and then that's when they do their payouts to artists, producers, whatever.
I'm looking at it
with a Duck Down letterhead that said X amount of sales for this album, your royalties, earnings for the work you did on the album. I never got none of that.
I'm looking at it. There's a whole lot of artists. There's a whole lot of artists they had too. I'm looking at it. That's crazy.
Now their artist roster grew after that. I'm talking about before Static Selector, before Sky Zoo, before all of that. We're talking about Black Moon, Smith and Wesson, Helter Skelter specifically, just them.
Yeah.
From like 95 into 96 up to like 99. And that was my
tipping
tipping point. Yeah, that was my tipping point.
So you basically was
the last album I worked on.
You was the sound of their brand, their whole entire brand. You know what I'm saying?
In all fairness, myself and the Beat Miners, Evil D and Mr. Walt, the three of us. I can't speak for Ian Walt. They would have to answer if they ever got a check from Duck Down in record sale royalties. I'm specifically talking about that. I will always say I got an advance payment for every beat I produced. I got my publishing royalties for all the work that was registered ever since then. You know, I still get publishing royalties off those records based on the activity of those records worldwide. I'm talking about record sales royalties.
Right.
And now that we're in the digital age, it's different because now you're dealing with streaming sales. You dig what I'm saying?
But all right, so you did get an advance. So that's cool.
Oh, absolutely. I got it. That's how they look at it. And that's how they look at it. They're like, you got some money. We're gonna keep this.
Basically,
you know what I'm saying?
They gave you an advance and get it you on the back end.
Correct. Basically. Because performance royalties, that's mine. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about like BMI ASCAP. That's me. You know what I'm saying? That has nothing to do with the label. But like whatever accountings they got with the sales of those albums, correct. To pay out people that were involved in those records. Yeah. You know, their excuse would always be we never recouped. You know, that's what independents do. Or we never recouped.
Let me ask you something. How does one of those? I mean, you don't have to say the exact amount, but how does some of those?
I don't mind. It's fine.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. How does most of those advances look like? Like how much they be? What's the average?
Like for the stuff within the Beat Miners, like individually, you know, like per record. It would always average between 2,500, 3,500, never exceeded past 4,000 or 5,000 per record. You know what I'm saying? And that was then. So if I did 3 or 4 records on Smith & Wesson album, you add that up. If I did 5 records on Helter Skelter's album, you add that up. If I did 12 2 or 3 records on OGC's album, you add that up. So, you know, for me, that was my hustle, like making sure I got on a couple of these albums and made sure I got more than one check out of that album. You know
So what they probably felt like,
all the songs are registered. I did my admin on the publishing side, so I would get the residuals from the performance royalties, you know, which is BMI, you know what I mean? But like I said, if the album did whatever numbers it did and they were getting the receipts of the sales of those albums and they had to do payouts, I never got one.
Now I got a question for you. So
to this day.
so as far as like, say for instance, producers coming up now, and you went through that whole process with that whole organization, how do you know how to handle paperwork at that age? And that was in the early 90s, and to make sure you got paid.
Oh, I learned quick.
You know what I'm saying?
I learned quick. I started building relationships with a lot of lawyers.
Yeah.
You know, shout out to, as far back as the 90s, shout out to Rudy Smith, who was also the attorney for Rough Riders.
Okay.
Who was representing me back then.
Rudy Smith.
Shout out to Theo Sattermeyer, who was one of my early representatives before 50, before Eminem. You know what I'm saying? Before Jim Jones. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Rudy
I actually
Smith.
talked to Theo like a year ago, you know, to consult him on a deal. I got this artist signed at 300, but you know, that's a whole other story. But but yeah, you know, these are guys that held me down, and I learned from that. So like, as I went further and I produced on like Fat Joe's album, the business was right. You know what I'm saying? Nas album, the business was right. But you want to know something that's funny?
Yeah.
I still had to chase my record sales royalties on those records too. People don't like to pay out record sales royalties, bro. They don't. Wow. That's why you always hear the war stories going as high as Cash Money with what's that producer who did a milli? Niggas don't.
Manny Fresh.
Sales royalties.
No, he didn't do it.
No, Manny Fresh didn't do that.
The dude who passed away.
He passed away. The producer that did a milli.
I don't think he did. Damn, who did a milli?
His name.
His name escapes my mind, but it was hit the internet. It was a public record that he was chasing his record sales royalties off that song. You know what I'm saying? This is what record companies do. This is what they do. They get the money off of these sales because, you know, I understand, because I own a label now, that, you know, you get your statements based on a good 90 days.
Bangladesh.
To, you know, like, Bangladesh, boom. So you get your earnings.
I was looking, Mo. You got it before me.
You get your earnings off your releases minus your marketing costs, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? And that's your money. Now, people put it in bank accounts, probably keep it in escrow to earn interest. Pardon me. You know what I'm saying? And then they take their time to do payouts. Now, based on the contracts they have with people for these projects, they know they got to deal with it at some point, or they're going to have a legal issue, unless a person is not business minded to go after it. You dig what I'm saying? Because, you know, an album could be out a year or a year and a half, and the person's just like, this shit did go gold, it did went platinum, how come I ain't get a check yet? Then they go, let me pull up my producer agreement, or let me pull up my artist agreement, and that's when they do the digging, or they call their attorney. You see what I'm saying? So you know, you just said, not thinking like that, time will go by and you'll think they're going to contact you. They're never going to contact you. You have to contact them. You'll get your publishing money off your records, but you're not going to get your sales royalty money unless you chase that shit.
Yo, so as a label owner,
any producer you interview, they're going to say the same shit.
One question, as a label owner, how do you do it then? Because you just said, now I understand. So do you do that to artists? Absolutely. What we do is we do an accounting every 90 days. Because you know, if you're doing streaming distribution, it's like about every 90 days, I already account for what I've spent on marketing, streaming marketing to the DSPs, whatever I pay for a video, whatever I pay for like any admin, you know what I'm saying? And I account for that, and I do like sales reports. And I make those deductions. So if I did something with just an artist, you know what I'm saying, and I had a structured agreement for a percentage of those earnings minus what I've spent, they get a check. As a matter of fact, first quarter of next year, for a record I have out right now with Dre Banks featuring Trina, that's almost at 2 million streams, I'm gonna have a check for them minus the cost. See what I'm saying?
Got you. Yep. Now
I got to, because I learned from that. I will never do that.
Now I gotta reel it in. Yo, hey Paul, I gotta reel it in. I gotta reel it in now. You know, you was getting a lot off your chest. Now,
yeah, man. I told you, Reck. I told you.
No, but I gotta reel it in now. Okay. Working with Boot Camp Click, right? Who's your favorite artist to work with?
Wow.
Yeah.
Boot Camp Click, I gotta say Steel from Smith & Wesson. Shout out to both Tech and Steel, but Steel is my guy. Steel was the person who actually paid attention to my music in the beginning, you know, like for the first Smith & Wesson album. Like I used to like bring my beats to D&D and like play it on a little radio in the lounge where they had the pool table, you know, just kicking it with them, you know what I'm saying? And I remember Still one time was just like, yo, what's that? You know, I had one of the beats I was playing that ended up becoming recognized, I think. And it was just like, it was just some shit I'm working on. I was like, yo, I want to fuck with that, you know what I mean? So you know, we got really cool. And then he started coming out to my crib in Brooklyn and East Flatbush, you know what I mean? And like we started like just coming up with ideas together, and that's what became We Live in Brooklyn, where I used the Roy Ayers sample. And he actually borrowed my copy of the Roy Ayers jazz record, He's Coming, that I used for that song. And he said, let me borrow this album cover. And he took it to the photographer when they did the photo shoot for the album cover that you see with the eye. You know what I'm saying? You see the whole boot camp and the eye, that's Steele's eye and the whole boot camp around it. You know what I'm saying? And he recreated that Roy Ayers record from borrowing it from my record collection. You know what I'm saying? So salute to Steele.
Well, you know, outside of right you know, yeah, salute. Outside of Steele, y'all, you know, vibing and bonding. If you had to choose and pick, who do you feel is the best lyricist out of Boot Camp Click? I mean, because Steele is definitely was one of them. Like Steele was like an animal.
I think rest in peace, Sean P. Arguably, I think Sean Price was a monster. He was a monster, and he proved it after the Smith & Wesson movement.
Afterwards,
with his solo stuff. I never got to work with him when he went solo because that's when I kind of removed myself from Duck Down. You know what I'm saying? A lot of his solo stuff came after I wasn't really in the mix of working with him anymore. But I was.
He held down the whole he held down the whole Duck Down. Like once he became Sean Price. Remember he was Ruck. You know what I'm saying? Once he went from Ruck to Sean Price, I mean Sean Price is his real name, but once he became Sean Price, the artist, like he got into a whole nother zone. And held down. He put the Duck Down thing on his back. The whole boot camp, Duck Down on his back, and
sure did.
Food out here.
So this is
and that's not to take away. Hold on, Moeskieno, real quick. I just want to say this, and that's not to take away from the artistry of Buckshot, the artistry of Tech and Steel. They all have their lanes and their zones. Like to me, Buckshot was a pioneer with the street singing before Nelly, before 50, before Ja Rule. I'm gonna say it right now. You can add this in your captions. You know what I'm saying? Come on, son. Between I Got You Open, Buck 'Em Down, and so on. Like he set the tone for how to sing on some street music. You know what I'm saying? He don't get the flowers for that.
Every nigga in sight.
You know, I got you open.
And what's weird? What's weird is after those hits, before I kind of removed myself from that circle, you know, me and Buck became really cool, and we used to demo a lot of records together too. And I used to be like, yo, you should do more of that, bro. You know, and he kind of shied away from the singing and went to just rapping more. So even after he continued on and was doing albums with like Knife Wonder and the list goes on, you notice he wasn't really doing that no more. Even before other people came out and make hits doing it, you know, he kind of shied away from it. I don't know why.
I don't know why he swayed away from that, because once he did I Got You Open remix, Buckshot kind of like
it was a rap.
Really blew. Like he blew over the top. You know what I'm saying? Paul, you know,
his tone was fire, you know what I'm saying? And it was original, and it was an honest place, you know what I'm saying? Look at Drake. I say less. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like he was a pioneer that style over street music, period. I don't care what nobody say.
No, Buckshot was so much on fire. I remember this. I don't agree with nothing they were saying back then, but they were saying at the time Buckshot could give Nas a run for his money, because remember, it was around that same time. I remember Buckshot had the streets so much on fire. Mind you, salute.
Yes, he did.
But
that first album.
But lyrically, come on,
you know the barbershop arguments. remember
the
the
goat is the
barbershop
goat.
arguments?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Nas
He
is the goat.
definitely
Like he ain't gonna
off
do
of
that.
Enter the Stage, there was the arguments, but you know, I think what it was it's just the grittiness of the street music. You know, I said as a lyricist, I still would say M.Reck is untouchable. You know what I'm
Yeah, of
saying?
course.
Yeah.
In comparison. But as
Mhm.
far as that impact on the street, you know what I'm saying, and him representing Brooklyn as opposed to Nas representing Queens, it was a
Yeah.
conversation. But then came Biggie and Jay.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
that
That
just
Enter
changed the
the
conversation
Stage,
Enter the
automatically.
Stage was crazy, man.
man, that shit had the
Yeah, it
streets
was.
Crazy.
It
so
was.
in
Yeah.
the
Man,
uproar. The streets in
I
the
love the
uproar, man.
sessions we had, man. We recorded the beginning of that album at Calliope Studios in Midtown Manhattan. It's like in the 30s near Chelsea. Um, we got inspired to use that studio because De La Soul was working out of there. You know what I'm saying? I think it was Walt's idea to work out of that studio. So we started some of the album there. We did like Act Like You Want It there, a couple other records, and then
Mhm.
it shifted to D&D Studios,
Yeah.
and that's when Buck was like heavy with the weed smoke and just like thugging it harder. You know what I'm saying? By the
Right.
time we hit D&D, and so you could hear the difference just in the album itself, like the growth. You know what I'm saying? Like uh some of the way he was rhyming on some songs, and then the way he was rhyming on other songs. Like by
Yeah.
the time he got to like act like not act like you wanted how many MCs, you could hear he was a
How
little
many
Oh
more
man.
MCs?
slower draw,
That
more
come
more
follow
more
me.
more goonish. Yeah, yeah. And he was
See,
vibing with Tech and Still a lot more around that time too. So
Yeah.
that just shifted his energy to just thug it a little harder, you know?
Yo, being that you said that, I need you to either debunk this rumor, myth, or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
It was rumors in the streets or in the industry that Still was writing for Buckshot.
No, I
Nah.
can say no. I
Okay.
can say no. He might have influenced his delivery, and like I said, you notice like how many MCs his approach on that record vocally is different than like
Mhm.
Who Got the Props or Act
who
Like You
got
Want
the
It, when he's more
props?
Right.
Who
energetic,
got the
hyped up,
props?
yelling. You know what I'm saying? But instead of like that slow conversational flow, I think that influence was from Still. But as far as writing, nah,
Yeah.
definitely not. Definitely not.
Got you.
I
You
give Buck
think
his flowers. He always
you,
wrote his own stuff.
you think that style will work today?
What Buck does
Yeah.
as an artist? Yeah, but it
I
just needs
mean,
the right music.
It
yeah.
depends on the beat. It always depends
Right.
on the
Yeah,
beat.
Right.
Because every time we
you know what I'm
think that
saying?
something
Like,
won't work, it end up working.
mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's why I say just like the DJ, the producer is important, man, because you
Right.
know you have to be tapped into an artist and understand them on a certain level, you
Mhm.
know, to say, all right, I'm a curate your artistry. That's the word I like to use,
Right.
curate, because it's not just a beat. It's about song making. It's about tapping into their spirit and understanding their voice as an instrument to put a soundscape and marry that and then put
Yeah.
it out into the world. And that's what makes classics.
So now that you spoke on that, we got to go into that. Artists don't understand that their voice are instrument, and they be stuck in that
Mhm.
'90s element for so long. It's like now you
Mhm.
got somebody who's a producer or a great engineer. Like, listen, try it this way. Take your vocals up here.
Mhm.
Do a little singy point here.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
How hard is that to
Right.
get an artist to get out of that old mental state and come into the new age of creativity?
It's tricky, and I think for some artists, they have a fear of change. And what
Hmm.
I mean by that is, let's say you made a foundation and a fan base with a certain way you make music.
Hmm.
The fear is if they change a little too much, he trying to sound like such and such. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Nah, I want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Or I don't think you can outdo what you just did. You know what I'm saying? Or it's just like, they just stay in that box because they feel that's what's gonna sell, just like they did before. You know, one person that we all know who don't go by that is Kanye. You know what I'm saying? From
Right.
beginning to end, you see he's transitioned and he's taking
Kanye don't
chances
care.
over
He
and
don't.
over and over. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Kanye. He don't
And whether
care what
people
he give
like it or
us.
not, right? And whether people like it or not, he
Hmm.
just has no fear of change. Is the point I'm making? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Hmm. But you got to
Because
be
I
open minded.
myself like more of the past Kanye work than some of the more recent Kanye work. I'm not the biggest fan of him singing, but I get it. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
No, I'm with you. I
but it
love the
works.
past
It's
work too.
working for him.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I like hearing
Let
Kanye
me
rap
ask
more
you
than
this.
sing, but that's just my
Let me
preference.
let me change the tone up, man, because I got to do that.
Say less. Let's go.
Let it rip, Reck. Go ahead, son.
Is it a beat that you felt an artist totally fucked that shit up? Like just keep it real. I don't care about
There's a couple. Yeah,
Let's go.
There's a couple.
Let's go there.
Name your top 5.
Hold on. Name the song and the artist.
Okay. There's a song of Smith and Wesson's first album. It's called it was one of the last songs. The hook they're singing, "Lick off a shot, you know, Dick Rider." Remember that song?
Yeah, I remember that.
I forgot the name of the song. I forgot the name of it. No, that's not.
No.
He says a line in there, but in the hook.
Oh, they made it into a hook.
They made it into a hook. I can't remember the name of the song right now. But I used it.
Was it a single
on that beat? No, it wasn't a single. It was a cut on the album towards the end.
Okay.
Yeah. You'd have to just go through that Smith Wesson album. But Cyber Barrel is a classic. One touch.
Oh, that's
classic. Tech did say that line. Tech did say that line in the verse, but then he took that line and turned it into like a reggae hook. You know what I mean? And I wasn't a fan of that record. I felt like for that beat, it could have been a completely different record that could have been a single. You know what I'm saying?
Wipe your mouth.
Again, that's my opinion. Yeah, wipe your mouth. Boom. See, because they were talking about dick riders in the hook, so they was like wipe your mouth. And I wasn't crazy about that record. You know what I'm saying?
Got you. But now give me some more records.
Off the top of my head, thinking of. Okay, there's a song I did for Artifacts, because I did a song called The Ultimate, which was a big record for them when they was on Big Beat Atlantic. Then I did another song called what's the name of that shit? Damn, the title escapes me. It was another cut on that album that I didn't like. And then a song I did for Fatal Hussein, may he rest in peace, on Relativity Records. You know what I'm saying? A song with Mac Moore called Outlaws. I had an original version with an Isaac Hayes sample that was crazy. It was on the Inner Line of Fire album, and it was supposed to be a single. They didn't want to pay to play the sample, so they asked me to replay it. I did it, but I had two versions of it. One was better than the other, and the label chose the one that wasn't as good. And I was like, no, you can't put this version out. I gotta change the mix and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And it was kind of one of those things where I had the session, and they walked in and heard the session at A&R, and he was like, I'm gonna use that one. I was like, no. I said, you gotta either use the sample, pay for it, or use the other version I did. And they went and used the version I didn't want to, release, and it's on the album. It's probably the worst reflection of my work around that time, in my opinion. It's a song called Outlaws featuring Mac Moore on the Inner Line of Fire album. Rest in peace, Fatal Hussein.
Yeah, RP, Fatal, man.
RP.
Yeah.
Now you produce the Nas Destroy and Rebuild, right?
Yes, sir. I did.
That was on the Stillmatic album, right?
Stillmatic.
Arguably one of Nas's best albums since Stillmatic. Arguably.
Yeah. Now, it's a little controversy with that song, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's crazy because when I did that song, I submitted the music to Letty Nicholson, who was an A&R at the time at Sony, and I got the call maybe like almost 3 to 5 months later that they wanted to use the record. Nas was recording some of that album in the Bahamas. Then he came to New York to finish the records. So I was called to go to Right Track Studios in Times Square to work on the record. And Nas was like, he had most of the vocals, but he didn't finish it. So he was literally finishing it with me. You know what I'm saying? And he was like playing it. Let me know what you think. And I just heard him going crazy on everybody. And I was like, oh man, this record. You know what I mean? I want a single. You know what I'm saying?
What were some of the people that he was going crazy on? I can't remember off the top.
He was talking about Nature. He was talking about Prodigy. May he rest in peace. Of course, he did a jab at Jay. You know what I'm saying? Besides the Ether record, it was like a one line at Jay.
Martinez. He went at her.
Yeah, I don't think on this record.
No, but he was still spazzing on that album though. He was spazzing on them, saying y'all got to play my records. Because remember at that time,
I think that was Godson.
It was that one too, because they didn't want to play Ether at first. K-Slay, yeah, that was that album.
But yeah, he was talking about Nature. After the album came out, the song came out. They both approached me to do diss records to Nas, and I turned him down.
Say word.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they both approached me to do response records to Destroy and Rebuild, and I turned it down. I just felt like I didn't want to be a part of that. First and foremost, for the culture, I didn't want to be a part of that because, you know, Nas did what he's doing, expressing himself, and, you know, I'm producing a Nas record. I gotta let that go. You know, this is his art. You know what I'm saying? And what I did do that I'm proud of is at the tail end of the record, when he does the outro and he's just talking after the verses is done and the chorus is done, he's just talking. You know, he was saying some other things that I disagreed with letting go. You know what I'm saying? And I suggested to him, you know, this song's called Destroy and Rebuild, so you should kind of like fix it at the end. You know, so it's like the song concept is you speaking your piece, airing out your grievances, but at the end you're supposed to like offer some semblance of like, yo, let's rebuild it, let's get it right. You know what I'm saying? Representing Queensbridge. And he thankfully took to my suggestion. You know what I'm saying? And he did a different outro. And then I mixed the record like crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, let me
it's
ask
crazy
you this.
That record was I just want to say this real quick. Shout out to Jungle, because as soon as we was wrapping up that session, he said, nigga, we're gonna take this record to Queensbridge as soon as we get out the studio. You know what I'm saying? Facts.
Crazy. Now, you being in the studio with Nas while he penned that record and y'all vibing, what was that like? You know what I'm saying? Like, what was that experience?
It was
like?
super dope. It was super dope. Nas was super cool, man. And we had some really dope dialogue, just business dialogue, which was surprising because usually people just on the artistry type thing. I mean, on the creative side, one of the first things he asked me, he was like, what was you thinking when you made this beat? And the funny thing is I didn't answer him. You know what I'm saying? But the truth is that beat for me creatively was a merge between Dr. Dre and Alchemist. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Like musically, the chord progressions and all of that, it's like a Dr. Dre vibe. Because that record has no samples. You know what I'm saying? It's all played. And then the drum pattern and the programming, it had a sequence of the drum patterns. I was inspired by a record Alk did for, like, I think Foxy Brown, the one that kind of caused the drama. You know how the drum patterns was on that record? Remember, I think it was Foxy Brown and CNN or whatever.
Oh, bang.
Drama in the show.
Bang.
Right. If you listen to that record and the drum patterns, you know what I'm saying? I had that in my subconscious when I was programming that beat. You know what I'm saying? And that's how that came about. And I actually took the kick drum from the Eric Sermon record Music. That's the kick drum from that because I like the sonics of it. So when I programmed the drums, I took a snare from a sampled record, used that kick, and I programmed the drums and sequenced it with the music, and rest is history.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? But you know, I didn't answer that question to Nas though. You know, I just didn't. I don't know if it was because I didn't feel like getting into the technical aspect of it or give it away. But then we got into other dialogue after doing the vocals. We was talking about Death Row. I had a Death Row DVD. You know, remember the DVD of the story of Death Row back then that had came out with Sugar and them? You know, Stranded. I don't know if it's called Stranded Death Row. It was a whole documentary on Death Row at the time. It was in DVD format, and we watched it at the studio. Then I gave it to him. Oh wow! He's like, "Yo, good looking." You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And he would say to me, "Yo, I don't know why Pac didn't like me." You know what I'm saying? I remember him saying that to me. And then he also talked about, you know, having conversations with Interscope Records that was offered a buyout from Sony, and how he took a meeting and he met Jimmy Iovine. Around that time, they had made almost $400 million off of Dr. Dre, and it was like, you know, having dinner, you know, having just a conversation. Of course, as you can see, it never went to fruition because he went to Def Jam. Right. But he was having that conversation with them, I guess, and you know, he was just like, "What do you say to somebody who just earned $400 million?" Right. You know what I'm saying? And that was then. Now look at him now. He's in the $100 million. So
Interscope, hold on, let me backtrack. So Interscope was trying to buy out Nas' contract with Sony because he was with Sony at the time, Columbia Sony. During the time that whole Death Row, Dr. Dre,
he had a
Sugar
conversation. Yep, he had a conversation. He definitely had a conversation. Wow. I don't know where it went or how long ago it was from the time I was in studio with him. But he shared that with me in the time we was in the studio, and it was just interesting because it just showed the business side. You know, we was having that kind of business dialogue, and you know, later on he went on to do the Def Jam.
MRecktv.
always gonna be best friends, man.
You're the plug and such. You a joke's bound to happen if you slipping or you lacking. I'm gripping on the Mactin, ready for the action. Shots to make you break dance and have you do a backspin. I got more kicks than karate flicks. My whole team pushing Maserati whips. You on IG liking thotty pics. Shorty pocket broke but her body fixed.
Peace, world. To promote your music or promote your business by placing an ad on MRecktv, contact MRecktv promo, MRecktv promo @gmail.com. Peace. Oh yeah, subscribe to MRecktv, youtube.com/MRecktv. I'm gone. MRecktv.
It's got a music.